It's time for Talking Pints on Valentine's Day, and Karen Mooney joins me wearing her heart jumper to match my heart tie. Welcome to
Thank
the
you very much,
programme.
Nigel. Thank you for having me.
No, not
and
at all.
Happy Valentine's Day.
And to you. Now, way back in the 1980s,
Yes.
you founded Sara Eden Introduction Agency.
I did,
A
yes.
dating agency.
I know.
And I think, were you the second firm doing it in the country or something like that?
Yeah, literally. I mean, there was Dateline,
Yep.
but there was nothing like that. Was computer dating, of course. But, you know, I was in my 20s and people were finding it difficult to meet people.
Why?
Because we were all working so hard. And the last thing you wanted to do when you finished a long day in the office was really to stand about in a wine bar and be chatted up by some oink or whatever, you know? So I started Sara Eden for young professionals or professionals to meet like-minded people.
And when I first heard about dating agencies and we talked about it with the boys, we sort of kind of thought, well, that's for losers. Were we being unfair?
Yes, but it's interesting you should say that, Nigel, because when I first started, we used to have to convince people that it was a sensible thing to do, that it wasn't for losers, it was for people who were making a discerning decision that they wanted to meet somebody who was an equal, who had as much to bring to the table as they had, and, you know, they could be, they could meet somebody that they wanted to be with for the rest of their life. It was a bit, I used to say to people at the time, it's a bit like if you want a house, you go to an estate agent. You know, if you want a partner.
I mean, you were way ahead of the curve on this, weren't you?
I know, yes.
You really were.
And I don't think I could have done it if I hadn't been in my 20s at the time, you know?
So you saw the need for it, you did it, it was a brand new concept. I mean, these days, I'm struck, sort of the traditional way people used to meet, going back, you know, 70, 80 years,
Yeah.
was at dances.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Hall dances on Saturday nights or whatever. Maybe I'm wrong. Seems to me that most people these days meet through work.
I think a lot of people used to meet through work.
Yeah.
And they probably do still now. But I think if we go back to the 80s, it was roles were changing. You know, women had their own careers, they had their own mortgages, they had their own. You know, it was the first time because in the 70s you had more clearly defined roles, didn't you, for the man and woman?
I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But fast forward to the 1980s,
yeah. And
it was
things
a little
are
bit
changing,
more difficult. Yeah.
And things are changing very, very quickly. Well, you were way ahead, as I say, you were way, way ahead of the pack. But something else that's happened since you set up your dating agency all those years ago, something came along called the internet.
Yes. Yes.
And that seems to have changed all of our interpersonal relationships in the most extraordinary way. I mean, people are abusive towards each other on social media in a way that they'd rarely be towards each other in the street.
Absolutely.
But there are upsides to it, you know, all sorts of incredible upsides, information you can find and things you can learn. So there's up and down with all of it. But the apps, the Tinders, the Grinders or whatever takes your fancy, all these different apps that appear. So how does a traditional, which I'm going to call you that, maybe tell me I'm wrong.
That's the new era of matchmaking.
So how do you compete now against, what's the difference between you and these apps?
Okay, well, first of all, when the internet came along, it actually brought dating into people's homes. So it was really actually quite good for us. It took away the bottom end of the dating, if you like, you know, going back to the 90s and things. We often used to get dirty phone calls and things, you know. We didn't anymore, you know, because anywhere there was lots of women working, they would think that. And then, of course, the apps came along. But our people, they're all financially secure. They want to meet somebody that can bring as much to the table as they can. They want to meet people who've been met.
So if they meet through Tinder, it's for different motivations, is it?
It can be, yes. Yes. Well, you've seen the Tinder Swindler, haven't you?
No!
Oh,
no!
You should watch it. It's very good. No! Yes, it's very
But
interesting.
let's just suppose, Karen Mooney, that I come to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I send you an email to your website or whatever it is. What's the process that I would go through with you? What would I have to pay you? How would it work?
OK, well, you'd email us, we'd send you details, we'd ask you lots of questions about you and the sort of things you want out of life. And then we'd make an appointment for you to either come to our Westminster office or our Windsor office.
Oh, you'd physically meet?
Yes, we physically meet. It's important, I think. And people have really liked that since the pandemic. You know, in the pandemic, we learned to use Zoom and all these other video platforms. And we still can use those, but people actually want to meet in person because they miss the interaction with a real person.
And how do you spot when they're lying?
Oh, easily.
About whether it's their financial means or the job they do, or...
You can find a lot out.
Because there are a lot of water mitties out there, aren't there?
Yeah, well, if they hopefully don't come to us because we ask them for 3 forms of ID, we do our own checks as well, and they're sitting down, they're talking to us. And as you said, you know, on the internet, you can find out so much about somebody now. So if we don't... We've been in business, it's our 35th year now. If we think somebody's lying, we're not going to put our...
All right, so I come to you for the interview.
Yeah. Then we ask you to sign a confidentiality contract because we do have a lot of high-profile people on our books.
Do you?
Yep.
Do you really?
Yeah, yeah.
Aren't they worried about, you know, the press finding out that they've been to you, or...?
Not so much, no. Not so much now. We change names and things, but, you know, I mean, we don't have to use photographs if we don't want to. And once you signed a confidentiality contract, we'll make a selection of people we think would be suitable, and then you select who you want to meet from there. And we have different membership options too, so we've got a very high success rate.
And how expensive is this?
It starts, including VAT, at £6,100 for 1 year's active and 1 year's frozen, which is actually very reasonable if you think about it.
Well, it sounds like quite a lot of money to me.
If we're going to find you a partner for life, it's definitely worth it. And you know the people you're meeting have been vetted, and, you know, we have a close relationship with our clients, so we keep in contact.
No, I believe you.
And, you know,
No, I believe you.
Yeah.
So what are your big successes? Come on, give me some examples. Give me 2 or 3 examples of big successes that you feel that you've had.
We've had a double generation success.
Double generation?
Yeah, the first couple came to us, and it was second time round for both of them. Then we had a big 30th anniversary bash a few years ago, and they came along, and he said, my son's an airline pilot, he can't meet the right sort of person. So he phoned his son, put his son on the phone to Debbie, my manager, and he came along, and he's now married with a baby. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, they had to put their marriage off twice.
Yeah, that happened to so many people, didn't it?
So many people,
yeah,
but they've got
yeah.
a beautiful, beautiful baby.
So what's the age profile? I mean, is it all young professionals that come to you?
No, God, no. It's our oldest member at the moment is 89.
No.
Yeah, no, we've got lots of older members, and it's fantastic.
89?
I think, if I'm honest, Nigel, I think the pandemic made people think about life and think about the future, and they want to make the most of it now. So, you know, 80 is the new 60, I believe.
I'm guessing that the pandemic must have led to an epidemic of loneliness as well.
Of course it did. It was amazing because I went into the pandemic and I didn't know, you know, what was going to happen. No idea. And we started Zooming, and children of older clients were teaching them how to use WhatsApp and all sorts of things. And they were actually going on virtual dates. And it was lovely because it stopped them being lonely.
Virtual dates?
They were going on virtual dates.
I guess so, yeah.
You know, they could...
Yeah.
You know, walking, when you went out for your 1 hour's walk a day, you were allowed to at the time, they could walk together on WhatsApp and, you know, speak to each other. So people became very clever at finding alternatives. We even had quite a few of our clients having meals together. You know, they'd Zoom, and one of them would cook something, the other would cook something else. So it stopped them being so lonely.
Now, I do not believe that you've had 35 years of totally untrammelled success without the odd disaster along the way. What are the most unsuitable matches that you've put together during your career?
God, I'm trying to think now. Well, we have had a couple of divorces, obviously.
Yes.
Yes, of course we have.
And also, didn't you match somebody with their ex-husband or ex-wife?
Yes, I did. Yes. Yes. Gosh, yes. It was really funny. I interviewed this chap, and I took his profiles up to him, And he said to me, "You're obviously very good at this." I said, "Why?" He said, "That's my ex-wife." I was married to her for 25 years.
Right, so as far as you're concerned, you're 35 years young as a business, and it's
Yes.
going to go on, it's going to continue.
Absolutely.
And is this all across the Western world? These sort of agencies, America, Europe?
They're on the. People are wanting to come to offline agencies a lot more now. Dating fraud went up in the Which report that came out in June 2021. It was up 40% in the pandemic.
Interesting.
You know,
Interesting.
People have to go into if they have to go into it with an open mind, and that's why people like coming to us, because they're meeting people who've been met, who they know have been vetted.
And Karen, outside of all this, you spent a bit of time working at Buckingham Palace. Tell us about that.
I did, yes, a long time ago. Gosh, different world ago now. Yes, I was in charge of the civilian staff.
And, gosh, you know, you think of all those years that the Queen was there.
Oh, I know.
And I remember the day of her funeral, and I was at Canada Gate doing some broadcasting, and the amazing procession, the coffin, the hearse, and all the staff coming out of Buckingham Palace and lining up outside. It was a very, very moving moment.
Must have been.
It really, really was. Very moving moment. Well, Karen Mooney, all I can say is congratulations on what you've built and what you've done and being a pioneer.
Thank you.
And I've learned something tonight. That can't be a bad thing.
And happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. And if I ever need you, I know exactly where to come.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Take care. Cheers.
Cheers.